Hello, and welcome to Beacon. Last time, we talked about heroism. We talked about the power of good and hope and optimism. We talked about the light in the universe. This time, we're going to talk about abusive relationships, alcoholism, madness, and living ships. This is Farscape. Farscape was originally conceived in the late 90s by a man named Rockne S. O'Bannon and was originally designed to be aired on Australian television on a network called the Nine Network, or Network 9. It was picked up by the Sci-Fi Channel um, in an attempt by the Sci-Fi Channel to gather together all known science fiction media and force everybody to forget about it entirely. The show ran from March 19th, 1999 to March 21st, 2003. It aired 4 seasons of its originally conceived 5 seasons and ended on a cliffhanger. The show began with a man on Earth staring at a spaceship, at a literal shuttle that was gearing up to launch. His name was John Crichton, and he had a theory. That theory being that a spaceship, any ship, could increase its velocity exponentially by slingshotting around a planet or other large spatial body. He wanted to test his own theory, so he boarded the spaceship that he was staring so forlornly at in the opening credits and went out into space. He got in his Farscape 1 module that he named himself and attempted to complete the maneuver. He did indeed slingshot around the planet Earth. Unfortunately, he maneuvered himself into a wormhole. That wormhole spat him out on the far side of the known universe, in the middle of a prison break. Oops. During this prison break, the Farscape 1 module pops out of nowhere, and one of the guards, we can say, one of the pilots of one of the ships in this battle, accidentally crashes into the Farscape 1 module. Again, oops. The Prowler, as it was called, spins out of control, smashes into a floating meteorite, and explodes. Oops. John Crichton, piloting the Farscape 1 module, is taken aboard the escaping prison ship Moya. He comes out of his vessel in a giant cargo bay, massive, larger than any cargo bay he's ever seen. He wanders through the ship sort of aimlessly at first, but is accosted by small droids, yellow, almost scarab-looking devices that prod him to go toward the bridge. He makes his way toward the bridge and sees that this ship is truly unique. There is a blue woman at the con, bald and beautiful. There is a massive, hairy man thing standing in the middle of the bridge screaming orders. There's a small, almost slug-like creature floating on a throne. Couldn't be more than 3 feet tall, hovering amongst it all. He's understandably shocked by what he's seeing. He sort of freaks out a little bit and is subdued by this crew of escaping prisoners. We come to find out through the course of the show that the blue woman was a priestess named Zan. The large man with the temper was Dargo. And the floating slug-like creature? Yeah, his name was Rigel. Rigel the 16th. The show populated itself with these very colorful characters. Rigel was a deposed monarch. Zan was a priestess and exhibitionist, and a plant. She was a living being evolved from plant life. Dargo was a deserter from a military race, and he had murdered his commanding officer. None of the characters in the show were completely innocent, and none of them were completely good. This was something that the show never shied away from. In fact, it leaned into. This was not Star Trek The Next Generation. This was not Deep Space Nine. This was not Voyager. This was not any of the science fiction that people had come to associate with the medium. This was dark and gritty and hard and funny. This had a main character who had no idea what the hell was going on. This had an insane military commander basically burning the galaxy to the ground, trying to find who had killed his brother and put an end to him. Court-martial be damned. At its core, Farscape wasn't about the conflict with the peacekeepers. It wasn't about the priestess who was also a nudist. It wasn't about these petty conflicts or these interspecies arguments that were going on. It was about the mind. It was about the power of choice, and it was about knowledge. See, when John Crichton flew through that wormhole, he acquired a vast amount of wormhole knowledge. The thesis in the show being that because he had properly navigated a wormhole, he knew how to control wormholes. It was complex, but explained well throughout the series. This knowledge was so forbidden and so powerful that ancient aliens, yes, ancient aliens, hang on, actually purged it from his mind, locked it away, so that not even John himself knew that he possessed it. The acknowledgement that this knowledge was in his mind quickly became the focal point of the show. The show wasn't really about military conflict anymore. It was about the acquiring of this knowledge. In fact, large sections of several episodes take place entirely in John Crichton's mind. I can think of 3 right off the top of my head that take place exclusively in John Crichton's psyche, whether it's his subconscious or his thinking mind. The show was fantastic, and it was funny and dirty in a very non-Star Trek kind of way. Nobody got along. Everybody was constantly fighting. There was sex. There was death. It was brilliant and completely insane. There were episodes that broke the laws of physics entirely, and physics be damned. It had a wonderful reception on the Sci-Fi Channel when the Sci-Fi Channel bothered to air it. See, they realized that they had a good thing and promptly stopped showing it. They would show a couple of episodes, 4 or 5 episodes at a time, and then take a break. And that break would last anywhere from 3 to 6 months. During production of this show, it grew a massive fan base here in the United States. But overseas in Australia, where the show was filmed, it really never took off. So the cast were quite frankly shocked when they found out that they had a large following in the United States. Unfortunately, that large following wasn't enough to save the show from cancellation. Because of its incredibly sporadic show schedule, and the fact that several episodes were aired out of order or with the wrong opening crawl, the show never really found traction and never really got off the ground. It had a huge fan base, but because nobody was ever sure when the show was on, typically reruns were watched more than new episodes. And then on March 21st, 2003, it was canceled. And the fan community went berserk. They inundated the Sci-Fi Channel with hate mail and begged the cast and crew not to give up. And they didn't. In 2007, a TV miniseries was created called Peacekeeper Wars, which tied up the cliffhanger from the original show. I won't go into spoilers here. I will say that Farscape showed a side of science fiction that I had never seen on TV before. It showed a harder, grittier, more human side of science fiction. It wasn't the stodgy military complex that was Star Trek, and it certainly wasn't the creepy, borderline preachy version of science fiction that we got from The Outer Limits. It was some wild, mangy child of the two. It was funny and fun. It was a wild ride, and it was wonderful. From 2000 to 2002, Farscape won 3 Saturn Awards. Best Syndicated TV Series were the 3, and it also won another Saturn Award for Best Actor in Ben Browder, the man who played John Crichton. In its inaugural year of 1999, it was nominated for Best TV Actress, and also a Saturn Award, for Claudia Black. She played a character named Aaron Sun. And Best Supporting Actress, Virginia Hay. She played that blue lady, Pau Zoto Zan. In 2002, it was nominated for Best TV Actress, again, Claudia Black. Best Supporting Actor, Anthony Simcoe. He played the big angry guy, Dargo. And Best Supporting Actress, a woman named Gigi Edgley, who played a new character named Chiana. The Peacekeeper Wars, the TV miniseries that aired a couple of years after the show got canceled, was nominated for an Emmy on 7/14/2005, July 14th, 2005, for Outstanding Visual Effects, which at the time was a crowning achievement. This was before, you have to remember, science fiction and fantasy became such staples of our pop culture in this country. This was before it was viewed as acceptable for a show to take place entirely in outer space, and that good, real acting could occur in those situations. The show was reveled. It was thoroughly enjoyed by the fan community, and its cancellation was a blow. It really was. But the Peacekeeper Wars gave us a fairly good ending to the series, and at the end of the day, that was what we really needed. We needed closure. I strongly recommend Farscape to anybody that has even the vaguest interest in science fiction. I particularly recommend it for anybody who has seen Star Trek: The Next Generation and found it to be kind of stodgy. If you shy away from the more clean-cut, proper science fiction that people try to feed you, try Farscape. It's definitely worth the ride. And, as always, thank you for listening. From the Lighthouse.